Hello?
Hello.
All right. Rick says, the director says we're rolling.
Okay, 177. Two pieces of big news this week in a time of big ass news. Trump has nominated a judge, Coney Barrett, to the Supreme Court, and the Senate, Mitch McConnell, has said he will attempt to confirm her before the election, um, which is a really abbreviated schedule, um, but doable. The Democrats say they will resist, but almost everyone says they won't be able to stop it. Um, Amy Barrett has been a judge for less than 3 years. But while that makes a great tweet making fun of that Judge Judy has been a judge 13 times as long as Amy Barrett, in reality, it doesn't make that much of a fucking difference because she's been a well-respected legal scholar, a professor for more than 20 years. Um, she's very conservative. Um, People on my side think it's bullshit, um, but that's the way it is. Lance?
Jesus. Um, I'm not that interested in this subject. I know that Democrats are obsessed about it. Um, she's going to be. They have the votes in the Senate, so she's going to be your next Supreme Court justice. There's nothing that can be done. When she's up there, there will be a conservative majority, which will,
A 6-3
uh,
conservative majority.
yeah, so an insurmountable majority uh, that will prevent the Democrats from imposing their ideas, their agenda, by using the Supreme Court. So I don't really know what else there is to say.
There's some stuff to say because I mean you can go into the specifics. Um, Roe versus Wade um, is will be under threat. I believe if Roe versus Wade is overturned, the decision as to whether to offer abortion or not is up to individual states. Is that correct?
Yeah,
And if that happens, I don't know, probably 20 some states will move to make. I'm just guessing. I don't know. We could probably look it up, but all the conservative states will move to make abortion entirely or mostly illegal. Um, the ACA, Obamacare, will
well,
be
hang
under
on.
threat.
Can I address each point, or do you
Sure,
want to
sure.
keep going?
Yeah.
As a conservative, that is, I'm a moderate on abortion. I should tell you that the Roe versus Wade will be under threat, that's for sure, and it will possibly be overturned, go back to the states. The individual states are not that conservative anymore. I mean, we're not living in the 1950s. Um, what will happen is what I've always suggested, and that is that third trimester abortion will be made illegal, and it will be more difficult to get abortions. I would say probably 48 out of 50 will make it completely legal to have abortions in the first and second trimesters. Uh, but you will still, if you're a girl in trouble, you'll still be able to get an abortion. Uh, you won't be able to wait until the third trimester. and you'll have to get a move on. You'll have to wait before get it before the fetus is developed into a more sentient creature. And if you happen to live in a state that somehow bans it completely, which I doubt, maybe somewhere in the deep south they'll do that, you will be able to go over the border, which is an added difficulty, but not insurmountable. So I don't, and also when I say this to you, I say this because I know very few conservatives that don't think that there could be a compromise. Most conservatives believe the problem is in third trimester abortion. That we really hate that. Most conservatives I know are okay with having abortion legal in the first trimester. So I don't think it's a tragedy for women. Now you were going to talk, unless you wanted to respond.
No, I
You
do.
were
I
going to
do.
talk.
So
Okay, go ahead.
we should tell viewers um, that neither of us have vaginas, though I think we've each seen some. Um, so
I keep
we're
my eyes closed.
okay. I don't know. They're hard to miss in today's modern world. You know, you
I, w-
type in the wrong web address and they're right there.
I was
So anyway,
afraid if I
we're
ever
less.
saw one, I might turn into. Okay, go ahead.
So anyway, so we can be accused of being men who are biologically less impacted. Um, and really, abortion will get thrown to the individual state legislatures, some of which are wacky cuckoo. I mean, you can have state legislatures that are wacky cuckoo on the lib side too, but on the conservative side, some state, I don't know, senator was trying to get legislation passed that would make abortion penalizable by the death penalty. Now, if Roe v. Wade gets overturned, um, and it's up to the individual states, does that mean that the conservative individual states will, in their munificence, be less wacky in their anti-abortion legislation, and will become kind of reasonable now that that there's not anyway? I don't know. Um, the third trimester thing. It's already hard to get a third trimester abortion. There aren't that many places in the whole country, maybe as few as two or three or four that specialize in those, and they're almost always for some kind of medical catastrophe slash tragedy where you've got a badly fucked up fetus that won't survive outside the womb, a stillborn dealie, a brainless dealie is the one I always go to. Something terrible that was never, anyway. I don't know that the third trimester abortion situation what'll happen with it if Roe v. Wade gets overturned. I think if it does, there will continue to be some states that um, are pretty dead set against any abortion, except maybe for rape and incest, and I don't know about that even. And what we'll see, I think, is certain amount of underground railroad action, where if the government fails people will use our newfangled socially networked world to try to help people out. This isn't an ideal situation, um, but I think, well, it'll be part of my general thesis when I go on a little. Anyway, ACA, Obamacare,
Well,
probably
let
gets
me
blown out of
respond to
the water.
that. Let me respond to that.
Okay.
Rick and I have had this argument 100 times, and even if I show him the law in New York, I actually went to the
No,
law
I've seen
in
the
New
law.
York, and it says specifically in New York that you can have an abortion for psychological reasons in the third trimester up until birth if you're a woman in the state of New York.
Yeah.
So it isn't just for the brainless babies that Rick always talks about. And just the fact that it's legal means that it's a problem. That it's legal to do that for if a woman is depressed, that shouldn't be legal. So that's where I'm leaving it. Do you want to move
Okay.
on?
Yeah, I want to move on. So ACA, gay rights, certain, like I don't know everything under gay and trans and everything rights that might be threatened. But let me make my general thesis, which really isn't my thesis, and I should have memorized the name of the guy who made this thesis on Twitter in a long thread yesterday. So what liberals are worried about is that Trump will attempt a coup, that if he gets a ninth justice to make a 6-3 majority on the court, that he'll. Now, this isn't my theory or maybe even my fear, but it is a fear among a lot of people. Um, I mean, if I thought it were more likely, I'd fear it. I just don't happen to think it'll go that way. But some people fear a coup by Trump where he's been claiming voter fraud in all these states, and some people think his strategy will be he'll throw out the narrowly decided states, or the states that start out on election eve looking like they're voting for him, and as more mail-in votes are counted, they flip to Biden. So he flips. I mean, he throws out the votes from entire states, which means they don't get to submit their electoral votes. And he takes it to the Supreme Court, which people are afraid will rule in his favor. And if he throws out states, there's a chance that neither candidate will have 270 electoral votes, and that means it goes to the House. And if it goes to the House, you vote by state. The representatives from each state vote for who they want for president. And in that case, Trump wins because Republicans have a majority in 26 states. So anyway, some liberals are afraid of this. This guy on Twitter says this won't happen, that John Roberts is whatever the term is for structuralist, that he's in favor of the normal function of government. He's not going to be party to this bullshit. And neither are the Republicans. That if Trump tries this bullshit, that that most of the Supreme Court won't go along with it. And I don't know about actually it's all up to the Supreme Court at that point. And this guy's thesis is we're making a trade that, without really knowing that we are, but that in return for the Supreme Court defending the election, the not letting Trump fuck with the election and letting Trump go down, that saving democracy, we get a conservative Supreme Court for fucking forever. Because if you do the math, Amy Coney Barrett is 48 years old. And, Ruth RBG was on the court until she was 87. So that at the very least gives, unless she suffers medical tragedy, Amy Barrett 39 years on the court. But I think it's more because 39 years from now is 2059. And medical science will have given people another 30 years of life. So Amy Coney Barrett, it won't be unusual for people to live in 2059, until well over 100. So Amy she could be on the court unless they pass legislation limiting SCOTUS terms. She could be on the court for 50 more years. unless she wants to, retire just because she's sick of it. But anyway, it's a long-term ticket. So let me finish almost done with my thesis. The thesis, so under a conservative court, unless the Democrats pack the court, and they've, with adding more justices to even it out, we could be having a conservative court for decades that doesn't that does what you've said, that it kind of keeps a lid on big government. It stops the Democrats from implementing big programs. But the Democrats will have a good shot this time around at having a sizable, at winning all three, the House, the Senate, and the presidency. But the court will, and it may be that way demographically, that the Democrats continue to do well in subsequent elections. But the court will stop the more ambitious plans of the Democrats. So that's this guy's thesis. The democracy survives, but the Democrats have a lid put on their ambitious plans. And my further thesis is that this was always going to happen, that government was, the Republicans have been trying to, who said, is it Grover Norquist who wants to make government small enough that you can drown it in a bathtub? Is that his quote?
I don't know.
I think Grover Norquist is this anti-tax guy who's very influential in Republican circles. And he's and he said, yeah, let's basically, starting with Reagan, the Republicans' idea has been to try to limit the scope of federal government and leave it up to individual enterprise. And under Trump, we've seen a great dismantling of the federal government. Not a complete one, in that Trump's only had 3.5 years to try to throw out regulations. So, but Trump, has kind of accelerated the Republican trend that whenever Republicans are in charge, they try to hobble the parts of government that they disagree with. And even if that hasn't been the case, that was going to government was going to become increasingly ineffective, because technology is transforming the world faster than government, at least a big, clumsy government like the U.S. government, can respond to it. There are smaller, nimbler governments. All the Baltic, the Nordic countries, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, Estonia, all these little countries with 5 million citizens, that the U.S. would call, socialist, hellholes, are able to nimbly, kind of embrace technology. But the U.S. government, we're a country of rugged cowboys, and so our government we were always destined to fall behind. So, to finish my thesis, the U.S. government will become increasingly ineffective, and enterprising citizens will build social technological networks to address the deficiency, to do some of the shit that we used to look to government to help us with. So our government's going to be shitty. We'll have to do a lot more stuff ourselves, which is, I don't know, it seems kind of like a triumph of a weird, not the triumph that the Republicans were looking for, but in a way, a triumph of, individual enterprise instead of government. And to read more about this, read Cory Doctorow. and his novels. He's written about, future Americas where the government is shitty and individual makers um, start taking care of shit themselves. The end.
Okay. Um, well, my response is that the Democrats keep having these fears that the um, Trump will uh, not leave office, but the problem is that according to a commission headed by Jimmy Carter, the most fraudulent way of voting is by mail. The vote by mail system that's being used by the Democrats right now around the country. And just today, I heard two reports, one from Pennsylvania and one from Michigan, about voter fraud already taking place in the votes that have begun. Um, I believe it was Pennsylvania where they found a stash of Republican votes that were thrown out,
Is this the one where seven
and this has
votes got
gone to
thrown out
court.
by a temp worker?
Yes, yeah, and they've been ordered by. They're looking to the Attorney General to order Pennsylvania to get this under control. And the other massive voter fraud was discovered. Now this is massive in Michigan. There are several people that are accusing Ilhan Omar, representative Democrat from Michigan, of massive voter fraud, where they're literally harvesting votes the way that the Californian Democrats are doing by massive fraud. They're just getting votes from people. They're telling them they're paying for the votes. They're telling them who to vote for. And it's not dozens. It's not even hundreds. It looks like it could be thousands. So my feeling about this whole thing is that we had a very good system. According to the commission run by Democrat Jimmy Carter, the most honest, most difficult to tamper with method of making sure the votes are fair and lawful is for people to go to the polls. Dr. Fauci has said it is safe to go to the polls, even for Democrats. They won't get COVID, and if you still are afraid, absentee ballots are still considered the old-fashioned absentee ballots. You're going to be out of town, but you want to vote. Those are considered fairly safe, but not as safe as going to the polls. So there are states in the union right now where there's a third Democrat state where they got a law passed that you don't even have to compare signatures, that there doesn't even have to be a signature on part of the ballot. Somehow they can get the ballot, and if your signature doesn't jibe with the signature on the ballot, it doesn't matter. They can't challenge it. But I'm not finished. This morning I heard a report on PBS. That's a Democrat station, NPR, National Public Radio, where the head of the Michigan voting department, whoever's in charge of voting, says that they've decided that mail-in ballots just aren't going to be fast enough. So they are announcing in advance, she announced in advance in this, that they were going to take a few days if they felt like it, if they needed, and would almost certainly take a few days to count up all the mail-in ballots from Michigan to make sure that they don't miss out on any.
Okay.
So for the first time in American history, we won't be getting the result of the election on election day.
Hold on, no, hold on. I
The
got to interrupt here
No,
because just
Rick,
just
you
throw in
spoke
just
for
say
a
the
half
first
a
time
Rick,
in
Rick,
modern
Rick,
election history,
Rick,
except for the
Rick,
year 2000.
Rick, you spoke for 25 minutes.
Okay.
Okay? I don't know if you have Asperger's where you're not aware
No,
of
but
your
you just
own
said a
social
thing that's
interaction.
completely not right. That in the history of the country, it's taken weeks to get the votes in because we used to be a country of fucking. We rode horses and shit. Like you couldn't get all the
Okay,
votes
all right,
in from
all right,
around the country.
okay, okay. Gee, well, okay. It's true that Gore versus Bush there were votes in Broward County,
2 weeks.
Florida that didn't get counted. Now, what, without interrupting me, I thought because you talked excessively that you wouldn't interrupt me this time. I was
Well,
wrong.
oh,
So let's keep those thoughts to yourself. If you want to write them down, you can, because you said a lot of shit yourself during that
okay.
20 minutes.
Okay.
Um, it's true that Gore versus Bush had to be went on for a while and was a disaster, a snafu. But the problem is that the Democrats are creating a situation where that will happen again on purpose, with plenty of notice that this isn't going to work out. Um, Before Rick interrupted me, I was saying that Michigan is planning on not giving the results until several days after the election. So that's along with ballot harvesting, where people from the Democrat Party are going to go around and pick up ballots from homes where there are elderly people. That's along with the scandal of voter fraud that we now have witnesses accusing Ilhan Omar of perpetrating, former campaign workers of hers. But my argument is that if the Democrats don't want there to be chaos on election day, and they're really afraid of Trump not leaving office, then they should simply vow to stop the mail-in voting, which we're assured will lead to chaos, and have people apply for absentee ballots. There's still time, and go to the polls, which is the most safe way of getting your vote to count. Now, I would like to go on and change the subject. Oh
No,
yeah.
no, because I get to
Uh,
respond to that.
all right.
All right. So I have statistics, and of course statistics
Oh
can be wrong.
wait! You interrupt me. There is one thing I want to. When you interrupted me, I was about to say something very important. Democrats are really worried about racism, and they think everybody that isn't a Democrat is a racist. Well, it turns out that mail-in voting, mail-in ballots, actually disenfranchise blacks and Hispanics more than any other method. I don't know why, but it turns out that of all the methods, of all the things that disenfranchise blacks and Hispanics, more of their votes get thrown out than any other group. So I would like to go on record as saying that reliance on mail-in voting will disenfranchise blacks and Hispanics. Go
I don't
ahead,
know,
Rick.
maybe, but I maybe felt like a foreshock. We don't really fucking earthquakes really don't have foreshocks to any great extent, but and I doubt we're about to get hit by one, but it's possible. I think it was just somebody fucking slamming their car door too hard or something. I don't know. Anyway, um, statistics. In 2016, 45% of everybody voted early or by absentee slash mail-in. This year it looks like they asked people which way they're going, and 50% say they're going to vote early slash mail-in, 46 say day of, 4% undecided. So it won't. All right, so here are some statistics. In 2016, 45% of everybody voted early/mail-in. This time around, 50% of everybody say they're voting early/mail-in. So it's not going to be a significant, not going to be an unworkable increase in early mail or mail-in voting. Among day of people, it breaks for Trump 58-39, and among early voters, it breaks for Biden 67 to like 31, 2-1. Personal story.
Well, wait, before you tell the personal story, you just gave the statistic saying it won't be an unworkable increase. Well, the head of voting in Michigan just said it will be, and she intends to take several days to count the votes.
Well, I don't know why that's such a
So
big deal.
which
It's
was
like
wrong?
why we need the voting results by like 3 a.m. on election night.
Well, to prevent crazy fanatical Democrats from thinking that Trump is going to not leave office, and frankly, so that I can be assured the Democrats won't litigate their way into office. Yeah, it'd be really good to have a clean, fair election where people go to the polls in a reliable method, and we find out who's president on the third, so the Democrats can't create a violent insurrection because
Well,
there's going to be blood in the streets, correct?
I
This
think
way there will be blood in the streets.
all right. I think you're in luck, Lance, because if you look at the polling, there's going to be a clear result, but we'll get to that. Personal story: I started phone banking. That is calling people in Florida to to help to see if they're going to to try to get them to vote for Biden.
I'm sorry,
Um,
did you say phone banking or sperm banking?
yeah, I tried that one time, and to sperm bank, you have to go 72 hours without jacking off. And so when I couldn't do it, and when I turned the sample in, the doctor yelled at me. Came out, guy in a white lab coat comes out, and he goes, "What's this? There's no sperm in here." I just wanted I like having different experiences. I don't think I was going to actually donate. I wasn't going to donate sperm, but I just wanted to, try out the process. But
So
anyway,
wait, you went to the office and you pretended to give sperm and then you didn't?
no, I signed up I was going to try being a donor, but not really. I like um, just doing shit to see what it's like. Like I've gone to Scientology like 3 times to be recruited, but I don't want to be recruited by Scientology. I just like the process that um, these these people try to tell you. They have you take a, a, a little psychological test, and they come out with a card that gives you a score that shows you the areas in which you're mentally healthy and the areas in which you're fucked up. And then they tell you, but with Scientology, or they maybe don't even call it that at the, they kind of try to ease you into it. We can help you, like get high scores across the board as a mentally healthy person. And then at that point, I say, all right, no thanks. I just like taking tests. And at that point, they push a little bit, and I'm like, nope, nope. And then they get mad, and then I leave. It's I don't know, it's not that fun, but it's a little bit of fun. This
But
is
my
mostly in the
question is,
era before we had the internet,
did
and
they
fun was hard to come by.
did they
So in the
leave
same,
you in a room and expect you to put some sperm in a cup and you when you
yeah,
and you did you went you pretended to,
no,
but then
no, no,
you
no. I signed up
disappointed?
to see if I was a potential donor, and the instructions say, all right, you need to not have an orgasm for 72 hours. So I made it 48 hours. And then I went back for my appointment, but it had only been 24 hours. since my last orgasm when I beat off into the cup at the office, and then so um the load I gave them in the cup, it was not a hot load. It was a very cold load. So cold that the doctor got mad, or the tech, whatever he was, came out and was like scorned my sperm sample, saying there were no little sperms in there. So, how did we get on that? Oh, because you said made a sperm banking joke. So anyway, so I've been phone banking, and it makes me sweaty. The same sweaty pits I used to get when I asked women to dance at the disco in the 80s, which is how we courted before Tinder. You asked people to dance, you made sexy moves to Prince songs, you bought them a drink. If they were needy and vulnerable because they just separated from their husband, maybe they took you back to their place. Anyway, that's the deal. I made very few calls because maybe I'll get more intrepid and braver. I better, because I've talked about it enough and tweeted about it enough, that I should do it more instead of just being a big talker. All right. Next thing is, we already went over, why the fuck do you need instantaneous election results? But and then wait, what else?
I have a topic.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, since you spoke for a long time without
Oh wait,
me
one more.
saying anything.
I'm sorry. One more thing about the Michigan thing. It's a
Yeah.
Project Veritas thing. So let me give both sides, so we don't have to spend too much time. It's a James O'Keefe project. James O'Keefe is a conservative activist who's very good at getting liberal organizations to admit incriminating shit on video, hidden camera video. And I believe that's what he did in this case. He found some kind of electioneer who admitted that he is going around and harvesting votes for Ilhan Omar in Michigan, right? Something like that.
He has 300 empty ballots in his car that he fills out. And wait, and they found another person that works for Ilhan Omar who says that he pays people for their votes.
Okay, so I mean, all this is illegal, particularly in any state but California. In California, it's illegal to vote harvest. Every other state, it's not. So O'Keefe got somebody on video talking about this, which looks pretty damning. But I got to give the liberal disclaimer that O'Keefe has a history of editing video deceptively to make it look.
That's a lie.
All right, so the conservatives say it's a lie. O'Keefe went to prison for a little while for doing some.
No, he didn't. He didn't go to
jail.
prison.
What was it? Jail, prison. He was locked
No,
up.
what happened was he was trying to get a senator to answer some questions. The senator asked him to leave. He wouldn't leave, so security took him away. That's what that was about.
Okay.
All right.
So
anyway, the Project Veritas caught several people that work for Michigan Democrats admitting that they pay for votes. So I don't know how you can spin that into a good thing. It's a good thing, and every's lying.
No. But all right, the deal is it's a bad. Obviously, it's a bad thing. But I have to, as a liberal, I have to give the liberal disclaimer that O'Keefe has a history of.
You just have to smear people. Your only thing you can ever do is smear people.
Okay.
You find out. I hope our viewers are more sophisticated, because 80% of your arguments are that there's something bad about the reporter or the person. You try to attack people's credibility. It's an ad hominem attack.
Okay,
and it really doesn't deal with the fact.
Because
everybody.
Wait. You're gonna do your point, and then I'm going to do exactly that. I've got like the biggest smear perhaps in the history of our show. It's like I know people who, when they were babies, reached into their diapers and pulled shit out of their diapers and painted the walls with it. They didn't know any better. They were babies. My smear is going to be bigger than those poopy smears. But you go ahead.
Well, don't keep us in suspense. What is it that you're going to
No,
smear?
no, because you do your point, and then I'll smear away.
All right.